For some people, the prospect of retiring is one of the most pleasant ideas in life, to be able to relax at the end of a long career and spend the days contentedly drinking cider in the garden whilst perusing one of P.G. Woodhouse's mellifluous tomes. Yet such serenity, like most things, must make economic sense. The state pension is set to surpass £11,000 for the first time this spring, putting pressure on the exchequer. The triple lock ensures that pensions increase per annum with the highest of wage growth, CPI inflation or 2.5%. The triple lock is all well and good, but can we, the taxpayers, afford it? The cost of such rises is exorbitant, as it adds to the current £110 billion a year cost and is exacerbated by Britain's demographics. The number of pensioners is also rising, further swelling the annual cost of pensions, resulting in the government's pension bill being forecast to increase to £150 billion before the end of the decade. Concomitantly, the country risks a future population crisis as birth rates fall. Fewer children are being born, and this means fewer workers in the workforce. There are exceptions, of course, though I hope not to be the only one to produce a hexad of children. All the while, fewer adults of working age are in employment owing to long-term sickness. As the ratio of dependents to workers rise, the cost of pensions will only increase. The situation is becoming, to borrow an environmental phrase, unsustainable. Given the tricky circumstances that we find ourselves in, we can no longer afford more than an inflation-linked rise, and we will have to increase the retirement age as life expectancy increases. We cannot afford the current pension structure. I'm really pleased to be joined now by one of the most serious-minded and impressive ministers in the Tory Lib Dem coalition. I say this in spite of the fact he is, in fact, a Lib Dem. Steve Webb was Minister for Pensions. Steve, thank you very much for joining me. You served with great distinction as a Minister for Pensions during the coalition. Do you think the triple lock is still affordable?
I do, not indefinitely, but certainly for some time more. And I think the first conundrum would be, we say that the state pension as currently planned is unaffordable, yet it's simultaneously true that we have one of the lowest state pensions in the developed world. So how come everybody else can afford a bigger state pension and we can't? And I think the honest answer to that is we can, but there are plenty of other things we can do to deal with some of the issues you raise. So if the 2.5 million people on long-term sickness prior to state pension age, we did far more to prevent them being in that situation. They were paying taxes in rather than drawing benefits out, and so on. There are so many things we could do rather than simply say we can't afford the pension and we'll start diluting it by linking it back to inflation.
What do you think the balance is between increasing the pension amount and increasing the pension age? Because obviously if you pay it to fewer pensioners, you've got more money to spread around amongst those who are retired.
And both are happening at the same time. So as you know, controversially, but we levelled male and female pension age at 65. A few years ago, we went to 66. In a few years' time, in the next parliament, we'll go to 67. There's a debate about when we go to 68. So that's a given that pension ages will have to rise. But we need to make sure more people are working up to, and indeed, in some cases, beyond pension age, which we are failing lamentably on. But actually, the real demographic spending pressure is not the state pension, it's the health service. If you look at the OBR's projections, yes, of course, state pensions will rise, but the health service will rise almost exponentially, especially if we include social care. And there's so much we can do to avoid those spending pressures, preventative measures and so on. And again, rather than cut the pension or reduce the increase in the pension, there are so many other things we could do better rather than target the pension.